webinars. This lesson is about tanween, also known as nunation. Objectives. We will understand what tanween or nunation is. We will learn what fathatain is, kasratain and dhammatain are. And we will learn what sounds are made with the fathatain, dhammatain and the kasratain. We will look at different ways that these signs can be written in the Quranic scripts. Tanween or nunation. Tanween literally means making an N sound or an N sound. In Arabic grammar, the tanween is used to indicate the indefinite article a or an. So if you learn Arabic grammar, you will see that when you use this tanween, it's indicating you're talking about an indefinite noun. For instance, a book, an elephant, a plane, a house, etc. So you're talking about something in general, a noun, a general noun. But you would cover that if you study Arabic grammar. That's just a bit of background information. Tanween is indicated by doubling up the short vowel at the end of a word. So you'll see the tanween at the end of a word. And here's an example, or a few examples. We've got the two dhammas, so that's a dhammatain, and we've got the two kasras and the two fathas. So terminology wise, at the moment we'll call these fatha tanween, kasra tanween and dhamma tanween. So all of these can be doubled up, i.e. the dhamma is doubled up, the kasra is doubled up, and the fatha is doubled up. So in that case we call it tanween, and we'll see why in a minute we call it tanween. Remember, tanween means nunation or adding an N sound. Nunation itself, again, tanween means making an N sound or N sound. When you double up a short vowel sign, as we've just seen, then you get an additional N sound added to the short vowel sound. So what do we mean by that? If we have two dhammas, instead of just the simple U sound we get with a single dhamma, we get an Un sound. So the two dhammas will give an Un sound. So simply adding the N to the U sound. The same happens with the kasra. Normal kasra gives an E sound. If you double it up, you get an In sound. So the E becomes In. So you just add an N to the E sound, in. And if you double up the fatha, you get an An sound. So adding an N to the A sound. So An. So we have Un, In, An. Nunation sounds. You can compare the sound of the fatha tanween, kasra tanween and the dhamma tanween to the below. So this is just to help you to see a comparison. Here we have the dhammatain giving the Un sound. So if we were to write that as separate letters in Arabic, and we've already covered the sukun, this is what the sound you would actually get. So it's like writing a hamza with a single dhamma giving the U sound and the noon sakin afterwards, so it gives a Un. With the kasratain, it's the equivalent of the hamza with the kasra and then the noon sakin, so in. And with the fatha tanween, we have the hamza sat on top of the and the noon sakin. Okay, so we have the dhamma tanween, kasra tanween and the fatha tanween, and they're the equivalent sounds that you would see if you had written the sound out yourself using sukun. Terminologies then, fathatain, kasratain and dhammatain. In Arabic, a word ending in an or ain normally means that two things are being talked about. So this is just a bit of background in, again, this is really grammar. So in Arabic grammar they have a concept of singular, dual and plural. So you can be talking about one thing, two things, or more than two things. So for instance, a book could be kitab, that would be single, you're talking about one particular book. Now in Arabic, if you want to talk about two things, simply the word that you're using, you add an or ain in it, and there's some grammatical rules about why you would say an or the ain, but generally if you hear an or ain at the end of a word or in a word itself, it's indicating that the grammatical perspective of that is there's a duality, i.e. we're talking about two things. So in terms of what we're doing, when we talk about two fathas, we say fathatain, or some people will say fathatan, indicating we're talking about two fathas. Okay, so again, from what we're learning, you'll see a lot of people, instead of calling this fatha tanween, they will call it fathatain, simply meaning two fathas written together. So here we have the hamza with fathatain, or you can call it fatha tanween. Then we have the kasratain, so two kasras, and again with the kasra, this could be called kasra tanween as well. Okay, most people will call it kasratain. And we have the dhammatain, which is two dhammas. Again, you could call this dhamma tanween if you wanted. So this is just terminology. We tend to use fathatain, kasratain and dhammatain. That's more commonly used than the fatha tanween, kasra tanween or the dhamma tanween. Different dhammatains. So the dhammatain can be written in different ways. We will learn later on in the Tajweed stage of our course why they are written differently and what they indicate to the reciter. What we mean here, I'm just going to put up three different ways you'll see it. So here we have three different letters, but they're all carrying dhammatain, and you'll see in the Arabic Quranic script, you will see these, depends whether you're looking at Uthmani or Majidi, and essentially the way it's written will indicate to you some Tajweed rules and how you actually pronounce the sound of the tanween itself, and we have to cover a lot of more advanced rules later on in the Tajweed stage before you understand it. For now, what we need to know is just that these three symbols, or these three different ways, can be used to indicate dhammatain. So the first one is a little dhamma and it has a hook on it, and you'll see this in some scripts. You see it a lot on the computer, like we've got it on the slides, because generally the computer fonts show it in that way. The second one is simply two dhammas written together, so that's what you would expect, and that's what we've written in a lot of the slides before. And the third one is two dhammas, and it looks like one's up the right way and the other one's upside down. So as long as you can recognize that these are all dhammatains or dhamma tanween, that's fine. Some examples then of dhammatain. So just a little practice about the sound. So here we have the letter Jim with the dhamma, gives the sound Ju. And with dhammatain, and we've used the computer font version to represent this, that's the little dhamma with the hook on it. Again, that's representing two dhammas. That will give the sound of Jun. So you take the Ju, add an N sound to it, you get Jun. So that's the nunation, adding an N sound. Another example, here we have Seen, so we'll have the sound of Su, and if we double